ladies and gentlemen. It's 2025, and you know what that means. It's a whole new year of World Online Racing. We've got Season 19. We're halfway through right now, and, well, we've got just under half the season to go. We've got your regular commentators back here for PC Tier 5 tonight. It's myself, and alongside me is Max Ring. Good evening, Max. How excited are we to be back?
Hello everybody. Hello Cockheads. Pleasure to be back here in the Tier 5 commentary box, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Back in the new year. Happy New Year to all, and hopefully we can start 2025 off with a bang.
Yeah, starting off with the Chinese Grand Prix is what we're doing tonight. It was the season opener for the console tiers, but we've taken a little bit longer to get to it. But let's have a look at your Shanghai International Circuit now. 5.451 kilometers long, 16 corners, and you can see right there where Sector 3 is marked, an incredibly long back straight. You're going to get DRS about halfway down there. That is your first DRS zone of the lap. The second one will come after the final corner, and it's essentially backing onto each other just before turn 14, and then just after turn 16 is where you'll get your second DRS spurt. So that is the prime overtaking opportunity. But a few quirks are about this track. You've got the snail section in turns number 1 to 4, I believe that would be, in the first sector at least. That is going to be, it's one of the more interesting first little segments for drivers to traverse. But yeah, Chinese Grand Prix circuit, Max, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very challenging track to get right, as you already mentioned. That opening part of the lap, turns 1, 2, and 3, very tricky to get that part of the circuit right, and to start off a quali lap or even the Grand Prix to be very, very difficult to get right. Of course, the middle sector does tend to be a little bit easier than the rest of the circuit. Of course, through that S section, as I like to say that it is, it's pretty much flat out through there all the way to turn 10. And then you've got that long right-hander leading on to that back straight. Very tricky to pick up traction there. This circuit, it's not too easy to pick up invalidations, really. The only real part of the circuit which is a challenge for those track limits really is that final corner. It's a very, very narrow exit. It widens up on the entry. You get to that apex curve, then it really tightens up as you drift your car out wide. So, yeah, invalidations and penalties really only going to be picked up either there or maybe at the hairpin as well, when you just take a little bit too much apex curb. But still, a very, very challenging circuit. It's really going to put these drivers to the test. And overall, a very difficult circuit to get right. And if you hook up a lap around here, it's going to feel absolutely godly, because this circuit does reward hooking every single corner up.
Absolutely. It is one of the most rewarding circuits on the calendar once you get it right. But obviously, the reverse of that is, if you get it wrong, then it goes very, very wrong. There's quite long runoffs as well, so we shouldn't be seeing too many crashes tonight unless something goes severely wrong. Like, for example, Lewis Hamilton in 2008, I believe it was. He went off into the gravel and retired from the race. We're just loading into the lobby now, and we're going to be getting the first action for PC in 2025. Just switching over to the broadcast, hoping that everything works carried over from 2024, hopefully so, and we can start off the season with a technologically fine race. We've got a few new names, by the way, in this one. We've been doing some sorting out of the tiers, and we've got Thomas Boutzer, David Siki, Christoph Godor, Pau Villegas. Trying to see who else is new. Who else do I not recognise? Doc Zernals I haven't seen, but he may well exist under a different moniker in the standings. Speaking of the standings, in fact, we have now a defined championship battle. Ariane Sanger leading the way on 93 points. Ironut in second, just behind with 79. So there's a 14-point gap between the two. Then it's Dallin McTeer in third place with 55, 3 DNFs in his 6 races. Has not helped the McLaren's case, and NSR just 1 point behind him in the Aston Martin.
Yeah, crucially in that championship battle, neither Ironut or Ariane Sanger are here. Same with Dalamuktir as well. So the top three in the standings, not here for the first race of 2025. So that could give somebody like NSR a good opportunity to capitalise. Maybe even Giovanni Baruzza as well, who's 56 behind Ariane Sanger. But a good 25 points here will slash that gap in half. So still plenty of opportunities for the drivers to try and find their way up through these championship standings and gain some crucial points when the championship leaders are not here. The drivers now heading out for their first runs of qualifying. It does seem to be a Kick Sauber of Mukwire who's going to be the first driver on a lap, closely followed by a Hash driver of Dark Knolls. So we'll see which one of the two is going to be the first one to settle up. I'm assuming that a Hash will just back off to let the Kick Sauber get a bit of a gap to the field behind. It'll be Mukwire to set the first lap of qualifying here as he's heading into turn 14. Let's see what he can do. This is going to be the first lap of 2025 if he's able to get it right.
Yeah, heading out of the final corner now, getting the power down as soon as you can, but making sure not to spin on the exit. Mukwire comes across the line, and this will be his first lap of this new year. Just keeping it tight to the apex at turn number 1, then widening it up to really close it in, but I think he's closed it in a little bit too much there, taking just too much curb, touching the little yellow sausage bits on the inside, then coming out now to the straight and down to turn number 6. Turn 5 is a bit of a kink, and 23.8 is his first sector time, but he is invalidated, and just wiping off a little bit of that rust. Switching now to Dark Ace, who's going to try and well, make an impression on this tier as he heads through now sector number 2. It almost S's, it's hard to get right, but once you do, this is probably one of the most rewarding sectors in the calendar, just because of how fun it is to hook it up. You think of Turkey turn 8, that is exactly what that corner looks like. Now coming out of the second sales section on the circuit, Dark Ace is now able to dump his entire ERS tank on the back straight. He's got a couple of cars in the way, but they will be ghosted, so they won't make any physical effects on his lap. That's if he even catches up to them, which they looked a bit closer on the corner exit, but not. Well, they're not. Now, the final huge braking zone, the hairpin. You've got to go in wide, go tight, and then exit wide again. And then now out to the final corner. Try not to invalidate here. Dark Ace taking it easy up to the line, and it's a 130.709. Already displaced by Pau Villegas, who goes 5 tenths faster. 130.241.
Yeah, nicely done there from Pau Villegas to go now 3 tenths clear of Giovanni Baruzza in the McLaren. AMG going up to 4th time. It's now going to start to come in thick and fast within this session. We have a Ferrari of Sandrov heading up to the line. He's slowest so far. David Martinez up into 2nd place, 2 tenths off Pau Villegas. His time is still standing strong, still 2 tenths clear of the rest of the field as Thomas Belsa goes up into 2nd place now. Who else is now heading up to the line? It's Christoph Godor up to the line in the Scarlet Red Ferrari, and he goes up into 5th place. A decent lap time there from the Scuderia man, a lot better than his teammate Yannick Sandrov. Who else now on a lap time coming up to the line? It doesn't seem like anybody else is coming up to the line just yet. David Zilski currently in the Alpine, heading down that back straight. He's going to open up that DRS halfway down this straight, of course, and then just pick out that braking zone on the left-hand side. You're going to brake around about the 100-meter board just as the curb starts. Hit that apex curb ever so slightly just to not unsettle the car. Gets a nice tight exit out of the corner as you put the foot down. Now into the final corner, you want to clip a little bit of this inside curb, run it out wide, not as committed as you would have expected him to be so far in this session, and he goes 13th fastest, slowest so far with a 31.930. So a big gap between Pau Villegas and David Silski, but that just seemed to be a lap that got the time on the board, and now just to build off there for the Alpine.
Yeah, a bit of nerves maybe for the TF10 man, but yeah, he is 4 tenths off Jack Maloney at the moment, 1.7 seconds off of Pau Villegas at the top, who, to be fair, he's 2 tenths ahead of the rest of the field, so it doesn't look as bad as, well, it doesn't sound as bad when you frame it that way. Thomas Balser, though, his first lap in WOR Tier 5 was 1:30.4. That put him in second. Redman's coming across the line. Bit of a wobble on the corner exit of the final one, but he moves up to P11. And the top 9, they are in the 130s at the moment. Redmers slots his way into a 5-pack of 131s at the moment. Daniel, Christian, Lubinov, Bayer, and Mouchoir as well, not having set a lap. Lubinov has began his teammate has made a statement of intent in that Red Bull. He's a reserve at the moment, but he will be campaigning for a full-time seat, you would think, and with a lap time like that, you'd expect it wouldn't be too long before he's able to get one. Christian Lubinov, he will feel under threat and desperate to get this lap time on the board, at least later on in this session. Whether this early one matters too much to the Red Bull is a matter of opinion, but we'll see as he now comes through sector number 2, and we'll see what sort of lap time he is able to set, taking the curbing a little bit more. He's looking a little bit more sketchy, but that can pay off sometimes, as Mario Andretti said. If you're feeling comfortable, you're not going fast enough. He's looking like a little bit on skates at the moment, but that means that once he gets the power down, the power will well and truly be down, and he will be blasting down this back straight especially. Don't know what's going on with the grading there, so apologies for that. But yeah, Christian Lubinov coming out of the abyss and onto the circuit. Track number corner number 14 is where Lubinov traverses, and now he's only got one more to go. Is he going to be up there with his teammate? Is he going to be lagging a little bit behind with Siki, Maloney and Alexandrov? He will be actually behind Siki in P15, so the slowest of all so far.
Yeah, that just didn't seem to be a lap that was well hooked up there from Christian Lubinov. And 100th behind Siki is going to have a lot of time left in hand. Daniel in the Aston Martin, I'll just go on board with him, and he cuts the corner at turn 11, which unfortunately invalidates his lap time, as he's not got a time on the board so far in this session. So he'll be the next driver to be setting a lap. It looks to be an Alpine maybe of... No, that was Ziki coming up the pit lane, sorry, so he's no longer on an out lap. It is going to be Mouchoir once again in the kickstart where he led the first runs. Now he's going to lead the second, of course, invalidated at turn 6 on his previous attempt. Let's see how he does turns 1 and 2 this time around. Very nicely done in this segment of corners, and does seem to be a little bit more hooked up as we exit out of 3. So as we head through turn 5, let's see a little kink right now. It's all about picking up your braking point for turn 6. Make sure you don't go too deep on the brakes, and this time takes a lovely amount of apex curb. He's learned from his previous mistakes on that previous attempt, and now as he heads through the long left hander of turn 7, you'll want to flick it in to that right hander, a little dab of the brake down to 4th gear, and then into turn 9 with heavy braking zone to then pick up the power ever so gently as you're still accelerating while turning. Easy to kick out the rear end through turn 10 as we head all the way down into turn 11. Later the brakes as the curb starts, and a big slide. Oh, and too much power, too much throttle application on the exit of turn 11 does cost him dearly, and unfortunately he does go for a spin, and another lap time that has been ruined there for Mouchoir as we see the Haas driver now of Darks now. So it's the two in the previous top 2 in runs 1 and 2. Still this in the same order this time around, and Darknails has actually invalidated. He's that AMG is on a lap just behind in the V carb. So what's he going to do heading through the final corner of this? Going to be braking later out the 50-meter board. Get the car turned in nicely. DRS as he heads up to the line. Can he break into that top 5? Yes, he can. He goes to the top of the times. AMG with a stellar lap time there in the V carb to go a 10th clear of Paul Villegas, who actually invalidated his previous attempt.
Yeah, not what the Williams would have wanted, and now he is under threat from AMG. But not only AMG, Thomas Balser is improving in the first 2 sectors, and he could, as he slides his way through turn number 14, improve ahead of Villegas and maybe even ahead of AMG. We've got one more corner to go, and he comes into the pits because that slide has cost him too much time, and he's going to get ready to go again. But I'd say that there is promise in a few of these laps in terms of their abilities to challenge at the top. And, well, this session is certainly not over We've got 7 minutes and 8 seconds to go. And that's enough time for at least one more run. Christoph Godor was improving on his time, but he has backed out of that lap, and he will come into the pits. But yeah, that's another contender that could be going for it. We talked about invalidations maybe not playing much of a part. It's maybe the commentator's curse coming into play a little bit here, with quite a few invalidations costing the likes of Mouchouar and Christian Lubinov good lap time. Siki goes in, almost improves by a second, but he's only up to P13, and he's still in the 31. So time to find for the Alpine, for both Mercedes and for Christian Lubinov as well. They'll all be looking for maybe the low 130s, maybe even the 129s. And Daniel, he's the driver making the latest attempt.
Yes, he is, and he's Aston Martin, of course. Invalidated the two previous attempts he has had with a 23.8 in that first sector, and all turning a little bit too early into turn 6. I had to really recorrect into that corner and have to take a second stab at getting the car hooked into the apex as he now heads into turn 8, down to 4th gear, slowly bringing that power back up as you then let off, down to 3rd. For Daniel, unlike other drivers who sit in 4th gear through turns 9 and 10, using a bit of battery on the corner exit though, through the middle sector split 51.0 as he goes for a late braking move into turns 11, which will then flick him nicely into turn 12. And then turn 13, this long right-hander is so crucial to get a good run out of here for this long back straight. If you don't, you're going to be bleeding time for a good half a minute as you're heading down this back straight. DRS open for Daniel as it's going to be late on the brakes for the Aston Martin. And will we see him be able to put himself at least into that top 10 after not being able to set a time so far in this session? He has to navigate one more corner, possibly the trickiest when it comes to track limits. DRS open to the line. Where can he go? He goes 14th fast, a 30.894, able to break into the 1 minute 30s, but not enough to beat Simon Voss, the second slowest in the 1 minute 30s. But still, 14th place, it's still a good place to work off for his final run. That will surely be coming up. And for Daniel, I think that really was just get a time on the board and build from there for that final attempt.
Yeah, and that final attempt is going to be oh so crucial for most of these drivers as they're going to try and shave the ones in the midfield at least 6/10 off of their times, and those around where Redmers and Daniel are a little bit more than that as they aim for the 29s now. And they aim for the top of the timesheets. We've got drivers coming out onto their final runs. The likes of Thomas Balser. We're going to watch on board with him as he heads through Sector 1. He has impressed so far, putting in one good lap and a lap that could have been even better than that, and he's improved in that first sector. But minimally 300ths is what he's up by. And now it's heading through the second sector. Can he keep it together? Again, he's another driver who's looked a little bit slippy, a little bit slidey. And is he able to make it stick? Wobbling quite a significant amount. There is not much rear grip. Maybe it's a track issue, but there's not much rear grip in these setups. And Thomas Balser, well, he's 2/10 up, so it's not affecting him in any way, shape or form. And now he's got the final back straight. It beckons for the Red Bull. He comes out onto it, and he's going to put the power down as much as he can. The exit was okay. It wasn't wonderful. And Giovanni Baruzza becomes another challenger to Balser's time. He has improved by 2/10, has Balser, but is he going to lose any time here? He pulled out of the lap here at this penultimate corner on the circuit, penultimate braking zone, but no such issues this time. And now out of the final corner, Balser up to the line. It's going to be 130.101. That's pole position, provisionally at least, for Thomas Balser. Pau Villegas heading through the first sector at the moment. He is going to be the next challenger. Giovanni Baruzza, he has deemed his session over. Everybody else is either in the pits or on an outlap. And Thomas Balser, that is a statement of intent.
It certainly is. That was a really nice final corner. Really threw that statement down. It may be my first race here, but I am not afraid to chuck it up at the front of the field with you big boys. So, for Pau Villegas, it's a little bit wide through turn 11. He's not up on his lap time so far. Of course, if this will be his final lap in the session, wouldn't have enough time to get the car turned round for another attempt at this. So this is one and done for Pau Villegas, and he needs a monstrous final sector and a final corner like Thomas Balser as he now heads into the hairpin. It's nicely done through there, maybe a little bit too much apex curb, but a little slide as well on exit. It's not going to affect his run. It's going to affect his run massively up into turn 16, but it gets that quite nicely. DRS open for Villegas. Can he go quickest? No, he cannot. Just short of the front row of the grid at the very least, and he sits in third place. Everyone else now coming out for their outlaps in this session. It's going to be interesting to see what will happen now for these drivers. Who will come out on top? Thomas Balser and Pau Villegas have both made their attempts, but the man currently sitting second, still with time surely in the bag. AMG looking to snatch back that provisional, that pole position that was taken away from him there from Thomas Balser. So that V-Carb is going to be a man on a mission, and all eyes will be on him for these final qualifying runs here in China.
Yeah, and that is Balser's runs over. He is retired from the session. He's the first to, but he's not the first to give up on his laps. Christian Lubinov is about to start his, as is Jake Dorser as well. Having a look at Christophe Godor, who was on a push lap. Now he is, I believe, going... Well, I don't think he can go for another one with that ERS level, but I think he's going to do his best. But at this point, it looks to be over for him. AMG heading through the final sector, getting ready for his lap time, and Voss and Dorser heading through the first sector, among other drivers, but Dorser is the one who leads, and he has improved by almost 2/10 in that first sector, but a hell of a lot of improvement is needed if he's going to break into that top three. At the moment, he would be climbing up to about the fourth row of the grid, but the top six still out of reach until the line. Villegas retires. He won't be improving. AMG begins his lap. Keep an eye on the timesheets there. And Dorser, he's up by a 10th, but he's down on that first sector time. What can he find in this final sector that he hasn't found already? He's on a 130.772. The checkered flag is waved. There are 5 drivers within the 130.7s. And Dorser is looking to break out of that at the moment. He's on track to, but is he on track to climb up to where the top 3 are? We will have to wait and see. He turns in for turn number 14. He exits turn number 14. Goes through the little kink of 15. Now the big kink of turn number 16. What can the Haas do? He's going to come up to the line. It's going to be a 130.6. That is enough for 8th. And it's not enough in the mind of the Haas. Chrysu now heading out of the final corner. Going very wide. Timon Voss going up to 5th place, but all eyes now turn to AMG, who's down on his time, but David Martinez, he's improved by almost half a second, and he comes from nowhere to become a contender for this pole position, to take the odds for the pole position checkered flag wave for most drivers. Now the next one up is Dark Zanace. He is in 10th place at the moment. Redmers comes up into 7th place. Dark Zanace, is he backing out of this lap, or is he going all the way? It looks like he's going to go all the way to the line, and he's going to go for a 130.157. Time has been found for almost all of these drivers. And that is the end of the qualifying session. I said that you had to chase the 129s, and I believe we got very, very close to it.
Yes, we certainly did. David Martinez, what a lap at the death. Really pulled that one out the bag at the dying moments of that qualifying session. And look at that. Just over half a 10th separating that top 3 in qualifying. We were 35 milliseconds away from a 29.9. But for David Martinez, he would not care about how far away he was from the 29s. All he cares about is that he got pole position for this qualifying session. AMG will line up on the front row alongside him. Thomas Balser in 3rd. Dark Zanace in 4th. Pau Villegas in 5th. Mushar in 6th. Barutza 7th. Voss 8th. 9th. Redbit in 10th is Chris Yu. He rounds out your top 10 on the grid. Then you have Christophe Godor, Jack Darassa, David Silski, Yannick Sandrov, Tim Bayer, Daniel, Jack Maloney, and Christian Lubinov rounds out your top 10. The slowest of all drivers is Lubinov. 2 drivers in the 31.0s, that's Maloney and Lubinov. At the front of the field, a whole second clear, is David Martinez and AMG. We're going to be in for an interesting race here, Cockaz. It's certainly going to be one to look out for. With those DRS games that could potentially come out on that final lap of the Grand Prix for that back straight, could be all to play for all the way down to that final corner into turn 16.
Lots of games will be played. It will be all about the momentum and all about when you make your moves. That will be the most crucial thing between winning and losing in this one. And losing would be, of course, not taking victory. And for quite a few of the drivers, victory is a realistic aim, as we saw different drivers at different points take that mantle of the provisional pole position. And in the end, it was a 1:30.034, which was good enough to take that pole. There was two that ended up being under the 1:30.1s. So some pretty solid lap times that were put in. And at the end of the day, it was David Martinez in the Aston Martin who came out on top.
Yeah, it certainly was. That Aston Martin pulling out a lap when he needed to the most, dug deep in that final part of qualifying where everyone really ruled him off. Everyone thought it was going to be AMG who would make that surprise appearance up at the front and bring himself back onto that pole position that he held at that midpoint of the session. He would have done if it wasn't for the pesky Aston Martin of David Martinez, who pulled out a lap of all laps. Half a second improvement on his previous lap time just shows how much time he had in the bag and how much he knew he had in himself to pull a lap off like that. So we're having this sloppy restart. It gives the drivers time to just focus and understand how that qualifying session went, how the car handles this track condition, and in this scenario we'll see what strategies they do go for. Of course, rain is also on the cards. You can't forget that around China the conditions can change dramatically very, very quickly, so we could see a few sprinkles of rain mix up the competition as well, but we'll have to wait and see. But for David Martinez and AMG, they're at the front of the field and they're going to be fighting for that race win for tooth and nail, because that could be the only opportunity they get a race win this season.
Yeah, it's two drivers who haven't really had the opportunities yet to fight at the top. AMG having only 1 point scoring finish, that being a fourth in America. Other than that, he's finished 15th and 12th. But yeah, for a reserve, that's not too bad in the 3 races that he has participated in. And then you look at the results of the pole sitter, David Martinez. He's raced twice in Britain and Hungary, and he's not finished either one of those races. So he's going to want to change that tonight. And, well, a pole position is the perfect way to announce yourself onto the scene and announce yourself as a tier 5 quality driver, because maybe if they've not finished the last couple of races, the pressure will be on to perform, to demonstrate that you belong here. And well, he certainly won't be the only one desperate to prove that he belongs here. Thomas Balser as well came out with a few quality laps in those early stages, and we could be seeing a battle between 3 reserves for the race victory.
Yeah, we certainly could. Of course, this is Thomas Balser's first race here in Tier 5 and instantly proving himself up at the front. But yeah, we could certainly see 3 reserve drivers all squabbling over that race victory. And that's really what the likes of Sanger, Ironut and Dalamaktir not being here do bring to the table, is that we could see a new race winner. Of course, it was Justin Chevalier in that first round, and then it was followed by Ariane Sanger, which was then followed by Dalamaktir, then Ironut, and then Sanger's won the last 2. So it's going to be interesting to see if we can get a new winner, of course, in this Grand Prix. And we will get a new winner, as our previous 4 are not in this session. But this really does allow for somebody, maybe even the likes of Mukwire or Giovanni Baruzza, to get their championship charge back underway in this new year and start it off with their way they will want to continue it. Of course, David Martinez and AMG will be very valiant foes in that conquest for a race victory, because, of course, as a reserve, you want to take every opportunity you can to score some big points And if AMG or Martinez are able to do that, that will put them in a good position in case anybody drops out over the past 3 rounds to give them a opportunity at a full-time seat, and also for them to carry some momentum into their later appearances down the line. So we'll have to wait and see what this race holds. Of course, track limits going to play a big part, especially through turn 16. Battery management as well. Not much time to save that battery around this circuit, and it'll be all for that back straight, the main overtaking opportunity down into turn 14. That's where we'll see most of the moves being made, and some into turn 1 as well. But other than that, really, except from turn 6, no other key overtaking opportunities, because if you go for a move elsewhere, you're just going to open the door for a switchback opportunity.
Yeah, it's one of those circuits where you have to take the risk to get the reward, and I think quite a few of the drivers will be discovering exactly that tonight, as well we've seen in previous times that the tier 5 drivers, they're not shy of making a big bold move. And it makes for some exciting racing, so I'm not going to complain about that one. And it makes tier 5 what it is. It wouldn't be a tier 5 race without a little bit of chaos sprinkled in. And as you say, the fact that there's limited overtaking opportunities at China does open up the door for a little bit of chaos, and I'm sure that's what we're going to be seeing tonight. But yeah, completely new fight for the race victory. In fact, the only driver to have received either a pole or a win here tonight is Tim Bayer, who he's down the order on where he would have wanted to be. And it raises an interesting point about we talked about surprise victories, surprise drivers being up there, but on this game especially, some drivers can have specialist tracks. I know one particular league racer who has a very, very strong affinity with China. He's not racing here tonight, but it's one of those things. He will come back, and every single league that his team will race in, he will race in China. It's just one of those things. And some of these drivers, China could be that track for them. And so we could be seeing them up at the top. We could be seeing, for example, Thomas Balser. He's up there with a quality time and quite a consistent time set in qualifying. He could be down out of the points for the rest of the season. So could the other two that haven't really stamped their authority on this tier. So you've got a lot of variables going into a race, and that's just another one.
Yeah, of course. Every driver has a circuit like that where it just gels with their driving style and gels with the way they want the car to be driven, and that exactly is what could have happened here tonight for maybe David Martinez or even the likes of AMG as well. It could be a circuit that just sticks to their driving style a little bit more and just allows them to get the maximum out of the car compared to other circuits. But of course, to do that, you have to be oh so consistent time and time again. And that will be the big factor in today's Grand Prix. Of course, it's not only just about qualifying, it's about the race as well. You can be good with that low fuel. The car does handle completely differently when on a low fuel run. But if you have that race pace underneath you, if you are good when the car is heavy and where it has a little bit more load on those front tyres, causing a little bit more understeer, you could be in a good spot. It seems like the drivers are readying up in the lobby to get this race underway. We'll see what the weather is like here in Shanghai. But of course, this circuit is willing to bite at any given opportunity. There's lots of runoff, but still, the grass and the gravel does bite when it needs to. If you just run a little bit too far wide, you could see yourself tumbling down the order. So the drivers are getting ready to start this Grand Prix. We're not only looking out for the battery, for the strategy, but we could also be looking out for the skies above. The weather could play an important factor in this Chinese Grand Prix.
Yeah, around China, it tends to play a huge factor. It's not like some of the circuits that we've had on the calendar, the likes of, the likes of the Asian segments of the calendar that just really doesn't play its, or the other parts of the Asian calendar, which doesn't really play its way in. It's not been much of a factor this season because Singapore is the only place where you would see you would see maybe less rain, but then when sometimes you can race around there, it can be monsoon conditions coming up later in the season. We have no races like that. I'm talking the likes of Qatar, the likes of Saudi Arabia, where you don't really see these sorts of things happen very often. But China is an exception to that. However, it looks like beautiful blue skies above the Shanghai International Circuits as the drivers prepare to get going. And we are going to have a Chinese Grand Prix on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, WOR. We're back for 2025, and we're back for the Chinese Grand Prix. Race predictions.
Yes, we are. Race predictions. This is going to be a tricky one. So I'm expecting the strategy to probably be a hard, medium, hard, the usual for most circuits on this game. But for the podium, I'm going to say Villegas in third. Then I'm going to go for Baruzza in second. And then I'm going to go for Thomas Balsa on his debut to come up and win this Grand Prix from third on the grid. What about you, Kotkaz? What do you think your prediction? What do you think is going to happen in this Grand Prix?
Well, it's one of those ones where we don't really know the reserve drivers, so we don't really know what's going to happen with them. So your Balsa prediction could be great, could be absolutely awful. Knowing the luck that we've had with predictions this season, he's going to have an absolute stinker now. So it's which driver do we want to curse the most? But I do think that he has a decent opportunity. He'll either feel the pressure is massively on him or completely off him. And either way, he has performed very well under it. But we're going to go to the 5 red lights for the Chinese Grand Prix. It's lights and it's action. They're out straight away here in 2025. David Martinez gets a good start. He's ahead of AMG, who's trying to switch to the outside. It's 3 wide just behind with Dux and Ace, Pau Villegas and Thomas Balsa. As now Mouchoir trying to get involved in that battle as well. They're still 3 wide as they head down to the turn number 4. And Thomas Balsa coming out on top with that grip. But Pau Villegas gets the exit. They somehow manage to maintain a 3 wide. And Dux and Ace manages to dive ahead. And he moves up into P3. Pau Villegas trying to cling onto the outside line. Mouchoir and Balsa now, they're fighting over P5. And Pau Villegas clings on to that podium position.
Brilliant start there from Martinez and AMG. Now 8 attempts clear thanks to all that squabbling behind that we've just seen. Villegas with a brilliant start up 2 places from where he started, and Darks and now struggling with that rear traction out at turns 9 as 10 as we're about to head into turn 11 for the first time. Heavy braking, of course, here. Christoph Godor to the inside of Giovanni Baruzza. A brilliant move from the Scarlet Red Ferrari on the medium tyres. The only 2 drivers on the mediums, Godor and Tim Bayer. A big slide as well from Thomas Balsa, so he's fallen down the order quite a substantial amount after starting up in 3rd place, now down to 7th. So as we head down this long back straight, are any moves going to be made? There is a little move to that right hand side there from Giovanni Baruzza on Thomas Balsa, who had that slide on the exit of turn 13. They're side by side heading through turn 14. The McLaren on the apex on the inside, he'll just streak in front on the exit of the corner, and Balsa down to 8th place. It's been a dismal first lap here in PC Tier 5 for the Red Bull man. Can he fight his way back through the field though? Of course, 28 laps here this evening, still a long old race to go. And here comes Christoph Goldor. He's fighting. He's really trying to use these medium tyres to good effect. He's to the inside of Bukwire now as we're going to go side by side on the exit at turn 3 as we head through 4. He's using all the battery he possibly has, already down to 20% in that battery game. And already as we're on lap 2, and he Mouchoir has to relinquish the position there into turn 6. But Christoph Godor with a brilliant start here, up 6 places from where he started, currently up in 5th, and now hunted down the ass of Darks in House.
Yeah, and he's got the advantage of the tyres, having switched over to that menu. The only drivers on those mediums are Christoph Godor and Tim Bayer. And Bayer, who's just made a move on Thomas Balsa for P8 on that last lap. He is looking to try and get up to where Godor is, but he's going to have a little bit more work to do as he heads up the field. Christoph Godor now trying to follow in the wake of Darks and Ace as they head down the back straight, all following through on the inside line. David Martinez, who at the moment is putting up a stellar defense against AMG, who's not put much pressure on him, but hey, I mean, he could have built the pressure on himself. He's got 16 quick drivers behind him, that are all desperate to take that victory. Thomas Balser and Jake Dorser fighting momentarily. Dorser getting ahead just for a brief moment, but Balser clinging back onto that lead in that battle. But yeah, it's not been a very good race so far from Max's prediction for that race victory. As I said, the commentator's curse, it's going to come into it at some point, and it came into it on lap 1. So yeah, Balser dropping all the way down to 9th place. David Martinez and AMG trying to pull a gap on Pau Villegas. They're 7/10 ahead at the moment, and well, they'll be hoping that the Haas and the Ferrari behind start to fight away with the new ABS man. He signed just a couple of days ago. I believe it was actually yesterday that Pau Villegas joined the team, and he'll be hoping that his debut for the team is a successful one. Darks and Ice right on the rear, so he is going to try and stop that. He's going to try and put the pressure on, and well, the next move is most likely going to be made down the back straight.
Yeah, of course, DR for the second time down this back straight. Oh, AMG with a big slide. That's going to cost him dearly, especially in terms of Pau Villegas behind. So we exit out of turn 13. You still got to look out for Christophe Godot behind as well on those medium compound tyres. He's still waiting in the wings to go for a move, and here he comes down on Darks and Owls to the inside. Just look at the overspeed that Scarlet Red Ferrari had, and deep into the corner and tapping the back of AMG is Pau Villegas, and Christophe Godot swings by just like that. He says, thank you very much. I'll take that place. But now Pau Villegas fights him back. Oh, but there was a little bit of lag there from the Scarlet Red Ferrari. That's going to affect Villegas' run out of that final corner and allow the Haas of Darks and Owls to the outside line. The Haas going to try and hold this one as we head through turns 1 and 2. Is he going to be able to pull this one off? But the inside for turns 3 and 4 to have a tighter run on the exit of the corner. May not be able to put the power down as early as Pau Villegas, but still able to get that move done. Very nicely done there from Darks, and now capitalising on the poor run Villegas got through the final corner. Now Tim Bayer looking to the inside of Mouchoir. The Alpine trying to make good use of those medium tyres as well, as he's really aggressive into turn 6. A beautiful send to that inside line. Of course, these medium tyres will wear off quicker than the hards, and they won't. And then, of course, these drivers will go onto the hards where everybody else is on the medium, so they could start to fall back in that second stint. But at the minute, the medium tyres are the quicker tyre, as look how much Christophe Godot has caught up to that top 2. And look at Tim Bayer all over the back of Pau Villegas as we head through turn 12 onto the back straight once more. And are we going to see a swap for the lead here, Cotkaz?
The medium's working for Godot and for Tim Bayer. Godot leaves the session, and that, well, that has cost him. That has cost him so much, and he's going to drop down the order now. But AMG making that move on David Martinez for the race lead. Tim Bayer in the background trying to make a move on Pau Villegas for P5. It'll become P4 when Christophe Godot gets out of the way. Because of the AI. That is disappointing for the Ferrari, who had such a great start. He made his way up to a podium, but it is now pretty much over that charge for the podium. They don't last that long. And David Martinez, in the meantime, by the way, making the move back for the lead of the race. And they have broken the DRS to Darks and Ace. You hear that right. They have broken the DRS to the rest of the field. This is their opportunity to break free. And the Aston Martin and the RB, they've worked together to perfection. And they're desperate now for Darks and Ace not to catch up. He's 1.04 seconds behind. So it's going to be very, very tight. Redmers becomes the first driver to retire from the session. He retires in the pit lane. And you just see Christophe Godot there dropping down the order like a stone.
Yeah, unfortunate for the Ferrari man. He was lagging quite a lot on that 4th lap of the Grand Prix. And unfortunately, all that hard work has just been thrown down the pan. And for Christophe Godot, it is heartbreak so early on in this Grand Prix, and just a disappointing way to start his year here in World Online Racing. But for Tim Bayer, the other driver on the mediums, it is a lot of different fortunes. Luckily for Christophe Godot, it's not all over yet. He is still, he's just rejoined the lobby, so he will still be just about within that DRS train, sitting all the way behind the race leader. David Martinez, as Darks and Owls, was able to get back within DRS range. AMG now swapping back in front of the Aston Martin, heading down into turn 14. No moves being made further back. No one close enough to go for a lunge to the inside line. We'll see Tim Bayer's mediums start to drop off within the next few laps or so, and that's when he'll probably fall back into the clutches of Pau Villegas. Here comes David Martinez to the inside once again into turn 1, and just like we saw in the last lap, gets straight back in front. But all this chopping and changing, all this swapping positions, is allowing Dark Zanels and Tim Berry to get closer to that top 2, and they've actually broken away from Pau Villegas ever so slightly, as he's got Mouchoir to contend with over that 5th spot in this Grand Prix. So the Kick Sauber are going to look racy to try and get back up into that top 5, as he's dropped Baruzza as well. So it seems that Villegas struggling, Baruzza struggling so far in this Grand Prix, and Dark Zanels and Tim Bayer over this past lap have really rocketed up to the back of that top 2. We got a 4-way fight for this race league now, with Tim Bayer the one who wants to make the most progress to maximise those medium tyres and be in the best position possible for when he comes into those pits just a few laps earlier than the others.
Yeah, I think Dark Zanace has had a fire lit under him. The fire is called Tim Bayer, as he's up right behind him now. There's 2.0 seconds back to Pau Villegas. So it's really just been those two having the overspeed rather than AMG and David Martinez having the pace deficit. We could be seeing a huge battle here as Martinez doesn't make the effort to come across all the way across the track like you can see Villegas'. AMG pulls to the inside line. He takes the lead of the race. There's no moves made by Dark Zanace or Tim Bayer, but they will be trying to shape them up in the next few laps maybe, or Tim Bayer could just be happy to stay with this group for the time being, get the undercut, get those hard compound tyres on, and then he's going to throw himself forward, as that is Pau Villegas, I believe, coming into the pits at the end of this lap, so he must have sustained damage, or he's going to retire, I think, because, yeah, there we go, he's just sped into the pit lane. That is disappointing from Villegas, who had such a good start to the race, and such a good start to the weekend, but it did not pay off in the end. And AMG continuing to lead this one. We thought that Pau Villegas was going to be one of those drivers fighting for it, but he drops down as Dark Zanels has a look to the inside line of David Martinez. That opens the door for Tim Bayer, who's going to try to use all the grip that he has left in those mediums to try to get past, but he's just going to have to give up eventually and sit behind Dark Zanels. So the top 4 is developing even more. It's actually making me question why on earth did Pau Villegas come into the pits. He must have had damage, as Jake Dorser and Giovanni Baruzza getting up to some fun activities inside each other as they head through sector number 2. Dorser trying to be later on the brakes. He can't really see because of Baruzza inside of him, but they are matched as they come out onto the exit. DRS is going to be available for the both of them because of Yanni Alexandrov, which is not helpful. And, well, there we go. Jake Dorser with the straight line speed is able to see again, and he is going to try to break free from Baruzza, at least enough to make them both solid cars again. And there we go. Dorser is past. Daniel's past Godor in the background as well. That is the move for P12. But the battle for P11 is very much detached for the rest of the grid. David Siki leading it at the moment. Daniel in 12th. And you don't think they're going to be fighting for the lead. Although the leader of another pack called David Martinez, he retakes the lead of the race, and they're going to continue to swap.
Yes, they certainly will, and that top 4 starting to break away over the Kick Sauber of Mouchoir. And now this really is going to start to get interesting between those front 4 drivers. I think Pau Villegas actually picked up a bit of front wing damage from the incident earlier on where he nearly ran into the back of AMG, and Tim Bayer now trying to capitalise on the bunching up into turn 6. Not able to do so. AMG now running a little bit wide as Dark Zanels was looking to the inside. The Alpine still holding his nose on the inside. Now the outside of the Haas driver. Is he going to be able to pull this one off? No. Of course, the door closes and the line favours the Haas driver of Dark Zanels, but Tim Bayer now looking to fight it into turn 11. Don't want to do it there. She will struggle on the exit of turns 12 and 13. It's all about this run now. It's a slide from the Haas, a slide from the Alpine as well, as Mouchoir falls behind Yanni Alexandrov and Jake Dorser, as we now open up that DRS once more down this back straight. Who is going to capitalise the most out of this top 4? Is anyone going to be close enough for a move out of this top 4 into that turn 14 braking zone? No, so far as it seems. seems, and Tim Bayer just bunching up behind the Axe, but a big slide really cost him some dear time over the course of these next two corners, and those mediums are starting to fade ever so slightly. You can tell by the traction output, not as much purchase as he once had, as AMG now takes the race lead away from David Martinez into turns 1 and 2, as Jake Dewassa gets past Yanni Alexandrov into turn 1 as well. And we have that battle for P5 and the battle for P1 still raging on, as Daniel and David Zaliski going side by side through turns 1 and 2. The Alpine holding it to the outside of the Aston Martin, who is rubbing with the British Racing green car as he's now on the inside of the Aston. A big kick of the rear end though is going to allow Daniel to get the run on that outside line. They're going to still go side by side down into turn 6. Ooh, a little bit of movement over to David there from Daniel, but luckily no contact being made, and Daniel able to keep that position, but the Alpine still fighting this one, now looking to the inside line of the Aston Martin, capitalising on a gap that was slightly left ajar. He pushed it open, and David moves up into 11th place, just outside the points, but 4.5 seconds behind Chris Yu in front.
Yeah, it's not going to be points for any of those drivers unless something goes wrong for the top of the pack. And, well, I mean, never say never as we head down the straight for the 9th time in this race. And none of the top 4 are close enough to make overtakes. Tim Bayer slightly falling off the pack. I say slightly because he's 4 tenths behind as opposed to 3. But this could be where those tyres start to fall off. It's chaos for the fight for P5, by the way, as Tim Bayer is, he's just almost had a wobble in the final corner. Barutza Mushwa, Yanni Alexandrov, Jake Dorser, Thomas Balser, and Chrisu all just squabbling with each other. Barutza's been able to take advantage. It's 3 wide behind Mushwa, and Dorser and Yanni Alexandrov are fighting away for this P7 now. This is the battle that has been established, and it's Alexandrov that comes out on top. Balser trying to get involved now, trying to swing around the outside of Dorser, heading out of turn number 4, but he's not going to be able to. They're going to just follow through in suit, and there could be another move here. Kurisu is the latest to make a lunge down the inside. It's Thomas Balser that is the victim of the move, and it is going to be Kurisu who moves up. He is up into P9 now, and that was a little bit of chaos there. Timon Voss and Christoph Godor fighting. Jack Maloney involved as well. Chaos ensues on lap 10 of this race, and Godor just ahead of Timon Voss. Jack Maloney did look to go for a move. He didn't in the end, and Mushwa has had problems. What has happened to the Kick Sauber? Is he missing an end plate? I can't quite tell from this angle. It doesn't look like he is, so he is no damage. He's able to continue, but nowhere near the level that he was at before.
Yeah, Mushwa just dropping it on the exit of turn 10, and Thomas Balsor also did that as well. He had a little slide himself, able to collect it and keep it out of the wall. But for both those drivers struggling with the rear traction, just shows how much wear is being put on these rear tyres just due to how many traction zones there are in this circuit, and they're all from quite slow speeds as well, so the rear tyres really do take a beating around this circuit. So further up at the front, AMG still leads from David Martinez over Dark Zinals and Tim Bayer. That top 4 still as it is, but now with a 4.1 second gap over the cars behind Yanni Alexandrov, now side by side with Chrisu as they head through turns 1 and 2, maybe to the inside of Jake Dewassa as well. The Ferrari actually turning straight across the Williams driver as we head through turns 1 and 2. On the exit of 4 now, Dewassa having a bit of a slide. This is allowing the Scarlet Red Ferrari to pull alongside into turn 6. Is Dewassa going to fight this one on the brakes? No, he's not. He is just going to slightly tap the back of Yanni Alexandrov, but unfortunately for Dewassa, not able to hold on to the position, and still it's all kicking off over these little squabbles for positions throughout the field. Giovanni Baruzza able to break away from the cars behind, and now just try and make pay on the cars in front. He found about half a second due to all the bunching that the top 4 have to deal with through that middle sector, but he'll lose all that down the back straight with no aid of DRS. So heading through turn 11, Yanni Alexandrov goes a little bit wide. That's allowed Jake Dewasser to do a nice old switcheroo. That's a really well set up move from the Haas driver. Jake Dewasser take a bow. He'll have the DRS heading out of the down the back straight. Sorry, David Martinez takes the race lead away from A&G. Darkson now's with a big slide over Tim Bayer. Chris Yu now looking for a move on Yanni Alexandrov. They're going to go side by side into turn 14. Look up from the Williams driver, slings him into the side of the Ferrari. Tim Bayer now into the pit lane to get off those medium compounded tyres, and we see him as the first driver to make a confirmed and scheduled pit stop. Dewasser going a little bit wide out of turn 16. They're now going to see maybe 3 wide into turns 1 and 2. There's contact between the Ferrari and Williams once more. Boxed in with Sandrov against Dewasser and Chrisu. It's all kicking off for this battle for 5th place. And now Thomas Balsa has just spun Sandrov round. And the Ferrari, who is in robust battling, he's lost the front wing end plate as well. Unfortunately, has to fall down the field thanks to that Peter contact. And it was just all getting a little bit too tense, a little bit too hairy between those few drivers, and unfortunately for Sandrov, he's picked up some damage and he's now spun down to 10th place.
Yeah, not his day, and he's missing an end plate, which means it's going to get even worse. Even worse as he heads through this lap, now being overtaken by David Siki, who, by the way, in the meantime, they've caught up to the rest of the field. They are just over a second behind Mouchoir. Mouchoir is 1.4 seconds behind Thomas Balsa. And I know it's a little bit desync because of the fact that Tim Bayer has come into the pits, but this could be the fight back on for the points for David Siki and Daniel and all of those drivers in that pack. And so, well, I said never say never. We didn't say never. And there they are, David Martinez and AMG going at it. AMG trying to give up a bit more of a fight than we've seen him give up in previous laps for that lead. But he's just going to end up sitting behind, taking the DRS down the main straight once again. And he is most likely going to make a move. Is this straight long enough, though, for him to gain that time? Is he going to jut out? No, he's not. He's going to stay in, and he's going to stay just pulling away from the rest of the field. 5.5 seconds between Darks and Ace in 3rd and Giovanni Brutzer in 4th at the moment. Chrisu makes a swap for 5th place. He gets ahead of Jake Dorser and Thomas Balsa waiting in the wings in P7. So that's a 3-car battle for P5 at the moment. It was a 4-car battle, but Yanni Alexandrov having issues dropping down the field. And now there's 9 seconds between 5th and 3rd. So the battles are defined.
Yeah, that really has defined what squabbles are going to be over at what places. Because look at that, Chrisu. 5.2 seconds behind Giovanni Baruzza in front, who's dropped a whole bunch of time thanks to not being within the DRS range to an undercut. Will have to be Baruzza's only way into that top 4 squabble, and we'll see where Tim Bayer comes out to the rest of the field. Thomas Balsa able to get past Jake Dewasser. I think that was a bit of a lag on the Haas driver's end, which has been very unfortunate. He's been involved in a few lag issues here, and now Mouchoir getting involved as well. He's able to get in front of the Haas too, so I think we could possibly be seeing a disconnect here from Jake Dewasser. David Martinez, unfortunately, having to relinquish that race lead to AMG. No, Dewasser back in front of Balsa, now going side by side once again with Chrisu. So it does seem that lag is slightly affecting the Haas driver, but not so much as it seems, because he's able to get back up into that 5th place. But it will be a little bit off-putting for the rest of the field as well. Yanni Alexandrov having a slide on the exit of turn 14 is Martinez back in front through turns 1 and 2. To that race lead he goes once more, and Darks and Owls just having to sit in the wings once again. Chrisu able to get past Jack Dewasser into turns 1 and 2 once more, and Dewasser going very wide through turns 1 and 2, and I think has disconnected once again. So I think this is going to be a recurring issue here for Dewasser as Darks and Owls has overtaken AMG into turn 6. That was a really late lunge into that corner. Caught AMG by surprise, giving Martinez a half a second gap. And he's up into 2nd place now, the highest he's been in this Grand Prix, and looking to try and capitalise on that track position before this pit window. That's exactly what he needs to do, and he's looking to try and take his first race victory of the season on his debut.
Yeah, it will be an incredible debut from the driver that we probably didn't talk about at the start. We talked more about Thomas Balsa having a impressive debut weekend. We didn't talk much about the Haas driver who's about to make a move for the lead of the race. Martinez to the inside, Darks and Ace to the outside. AMG trying to follow through David Martinez, he made the gamble to stay behind the Aston Martin, but in the end, it actually was the safe option to wait there to stay in third. And, well, we'll see as they come across to the second DRS zone of this lap. Can David Martinez and AMG make those moves? Martinez is much closer to Darks and Ace than I've seen Martinez and AMG at all. And the Aston Martin retakes the lead of this race. AMG almost stepping the back of Darks and Ace as they headed through turn number 1. But in the end, the top 3 still staying as they were here on, well, after turn 6 on the previous lap. AMG, though, looking to get a bit of revenge on Darks and Ace, but just not quite close enough to make that move stick. In the meantime, Timon Voss and Yanni Alexandrov. Alexandrov still going at it despite the wing damage. And Timon Voss is around the outside trying to hold on to it. Alexandrov will be quicker down the straights. Timon Voss will be much quicker in the corners as what's happened there to David Siki. He's dropped down now into P12. Maybe it's a little bit of a disconnect. We'll have to see as he gets away from the Ferraris. He's not a disconnect. So I'm not sure what's happened there, but now he's fighting away with Christoph Godor for that P12 spot. Yannick Alexandrov as well, of course, ever involved in these battles. And Siki just climbing up, saving his blushes, and only dropping down to P11. In the meantime, though, I don't know when this happened because I didn't see it, but Daniel has picked up 3 seconds worth of penalties, which could cost him a point or 2 at the end of this one as AMG makes a move into the lead of the race. Darks and Ace going to try to fight it back down the inside as they head into turn number 14. AMG around the outside and Darks and Ace on the inside. And it was the traction of the outside that gave it to AMG, who hands it straight back. He's into the pits. He and Martinez have almost just done a Hamilton and gone straight into the wall, but they have survived. And they are in now for those mediums.
Yeah, Darks and Ace will stay out for another lap, trusting those hard compounded tyres. Medium tyres will be for the rest of the field, but where is Tim Bayer in all of this? He's now heading through the final corner. Will he get in front of AMG and David Martinez? Timon Voss unfortunately picks up a 10-second time penalty and retires from the Grand Prix. And look at that. Martinez and AMG out in front of Bayer. That just shows how strong the DRS was. Maloney taking a wide line, so that's allowed Tim Bayer to just streak by one of the back markers in this Grand Prix, but he's still 1.2 seconds behind the Aston Martin of David Martinez, who's nearly dropping out of DRS range from AMG as well. Now, as I think Timon Voss has blocked the pit lane for both Bolsa and also Yannick Zandrov. So, unfortunately for Bolsa and Sandrov, their races have just been ruined thanks to the AI just stopping at the end of the pit lane. I was about to say Darks and Ace might be under a bit of pressure on pit lane exit due to the DRS going to be in AMG's and David Martinez's hands. But for Bolsa and Zandrov, that has killed any chance of points in this race, you would think, because they have just been held up for a good 10-15 seconds in the pit lane, not even in the pit stop.
Yeah, Yanni Alexandrov, really not his day. It's just getting from bad to worse now. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see him come into the pits at the end of the next couple of laps. Balsa as well. It's not been his day, but that was just mainly because of the awful start that he got. The first Haas is into the pits, but it's that of Darks and Ace. So the other Haas is going to take the lead of the race. Jake Dorser passes through, as you can see there. That was quite a good angle. With Darks and Els coming in for those mediums. Where is he going to come out, though, in relation to AMG and David Martinez? He's going to come out behind. He's going to come up behind Bayer. Where is he going to cut? Is he going to be behind Barutza even? Not quite. He's actually right on the rear of Tim Bayer. And he's going to try to get past the man who's got those 5-lap-old hards on. He's on those fresh mediums. But remember, they're going to be cold. He's going to try and warm them up before he makes that move, but he's only 2.5 seconds off AMG and David Martinez with a lap extra in those mediums, and a lap on those mediums is a hell of a lot of difference. So we could be seeing Darks and Ace with a slight pace advantage at the end if he doesn't bottle it. Here he's got a fully RS tank and he's not going to be afraid to use it once he catches up to them. But first, he's got to make it past the Alpine, who's made him lose 4, almost 5 tenths. Now it is 5 tenths in the second sector. Darks and Ace needs to make this move as soon as he can, and the move is going to be made, you think, on this back straight. The main overtaking opportunity that sees Mouchoir pass the other Haas of Jake Dorset into the lead of the race. And Darks and Ace is past Tim Bayer. He's up into P5. And the Hassman moves ever closer to Martinez and AMG. Martinez now leading the two between himself and AMG. DRS is to his benefit. Dorset continues for another lap. Mouchoir is going to come into the pits. And we're almost back to formation. Back as we were. David Martinez, fastest lap of the race. 133.221 as he makes his way back past AMG. And Dark Zanals at the moment isn't able to close that gap.
No, not so far. That DRS is really going to be helping AMG and David Martinez. So really, Dark Zanals will need Tim Bayer to just try stick within the wings. And just hopefully be able to get in front and do the normal switcheroo somewhat process through those back straights. But Dark Zanals really is pushing. Purple Sector 1 at the start of this lap. It just shows how much he's hustling that car to try and get to the back of the Aston Martin and the V-Carb in front. David Martinez and AMG squabbling for their first podiums, let alone a race wins of the season. Same with Dark Zanels as well. Of course, Dark is a debutant here. It is his debut Grand Prix here in PC Tier 5, and he's already threatening at a race victory. So as we head out of turn 13 with AMG and Martinez, they're coming up on the back of Jake DeWasser. Is he going to be able to just sit in front for another lap? Maybe Jake could help his teammate out here if he stays out for one extra lap. He could hold up the top two in this Grand Prix and allow his teammate to catch up. That's what I'll be saying to my teammate in this scenario. But will DeWasser stay out for another lap? That is the question. Is he going to come into the pit lane? Yes, he is. When his teammate might have needed him the most, he comes into the pit lane. So DeWasser is not going to play a part on this top two battle, but they both have DRS down that major. And DeWasser picks up a 10-second time penalty as well. That's really going to affect his chances of points, and he's retired from the Grand Prix as well. And unfortunately, that is our fourth retirement in the pit lane in this Grand Prix. But AMG stays in the race lead ahead of Martinez from Dark Zanals, who could have just had his teammate through that whole first section of circuit, help him out and get to the back of that top two. So we're going to have two cars squabbling for the race lead, unless the Haas driver can find a monumental amount of time and amount of pace in that Haas and claw his way back to the front of the field.
Having said that, though, he has caught up by 2/10 in that first sector alone, so he does certainly have the pace, and it's just about whether he can hook it up, whether he can get as close as he can. But that DRS will really, really harm his chances. As well, what has happened there?
He's had a big slide heading through turn 9 and 10, and that has dropped him a good 4 tenths back from where he originally was. So mistakes like that from Dark Zanals is really going to affect his race-winning chances, and that mistake right there could have just cost him it all. 3.2 seconds now, that gap, with Martinez now getting some DRS as well. This really is not going Dark Zanals' way, so maybe just staying out for that extra lap has cost him absolutely dearly, and I'm not seeing him getting back into this one at all unless a massive fight happens at the front of this field. I think you might mute your mic, Kaz.
Not again. Yep. New year, same old me, but oh well, we'll continue. AMG and David Martinez holding that gap over Dark Zanals at the moment. I was going to say it was disappointing for the Haas. I mean, a podium on your WOR debut, that's nothing to sniff at. And, well, considering that he's going to be taking 15 points home, I think he's going to be very, very happy with that one. We are going to have a new race winner this race, but is it going to be AMG or is it going to be the AMR driver of David Martinez? We've got 8 laps to decide this, and at the moment it is advantage AMG, but the DRS chicken is going to start to come into play over the next few laps. We could be seeing drivers slower down the end of straights, slower through this snail section here, just to try and get that DRS, get that massive advantage down the main straight. Once again, Dark Zanals breaches the 3-second gap, but surely it's not going to be enough, as we can see the gap increasing once again. David Martinez has that DRS as they head into the void again. And where is he going to? Is he going to make a move at all? No, he's not. He's going to stay behind. He was too far back on AMG, which is going to be a promising sign for the RB. Either that or it is David Martinez lifting off at the end of the straight. He's going to want to get it for the next one, and indeed he does. He's under 2/10 behind, so surely he makes this move here, unless he is literally going to wait till the end of the race. Pulling to the inside line on AMG. He's not going to wait. The time is now for Martinez to make that move, and the lead of the race is back in the Aston Martin camp.
Yes, it certainly is. Martinez using his knowledge of the DRS well, just sitting behind that V-carb until the latest opportunity into turn 1. So, lap 21 of 28, still a little while in this race to go. Nearly a good old 8 laps in this race remaining, but still all to play for at the front of this field. Will AMG be able to hang on to the coattails of David Martinez and be able to help get pulled along and try and get that move done once again into turn 14 and then into 16? Or will he just sit behind into turn 1 like we saw Martinez do a lap ago? It's starting to get a little bit overcast as well here in Shanghai. So we could also see the track getting cooler, the tyres wearing less, and drivers being able to push that car a little bit more aggressively, and as the tyres won't overheat or wear as much. So it'll be DRS open for AMG down this back straight. Is he going to go for the move this time around? It's looking like he's getting closer and closer. Yes, he is. He's going to pull to that inside line of the Aston Martin, and he'll get ahead. Heading through turn 14. Of course, the next DRS detection point just before turn 16. So if Martinez is able to get a good run out of here, we could see the good old switcheroo we saw last time around, but a little bit of a more hesitant Apex this time around behind the V-carb might just make that a little bit more of a challenge for the Aston Martin. He's getting closer and closer, but no, just elects to sit behind. So AMG, your race leader once again. Darkson now has brought that gap down now to 3 seconds as we head through the first few corners. 2.7 now the gap as we exit out of turn 3. So he is finding time to that top 2, but will it be enough by race's end? Because he still has all the way till lap 28 to at least make an impact on this top 2 battle. And so far, he's down to 2.7, now 2.6. So he's still pushing on. I just don't think it'll be enough at this stage of the Grand Prix.
No, especially with the Haas driver right on his rear, looking to pressure, looking for overtakes, and, well, looking to take advantage, if indeed that is what it comes down to. But AMG continuing to lead this race. Tim Bayer, he's in fourth place. He's able to manage that gap at the moment. 2.2 seconds to Ducks and Owls. Those hards will be incredibly quick come the end of the race in comparison, because they're going to last a hell of a lot longer. And those medium stints were opened up a hell of a lot earlier. David Martinez, is he going to make that move? No, he pulls out of it. So once again, he stays behind, and once again, he's going to get that DRS down the main straight. So that gap between AMG and David Martinez is just shrinking lap by lap. Chrisu and Mouchoir swapping. AMG pulling very aggressively to the inside line to try and defend from David Martinez. But in the end, it was all futile. It was all pointless. And AMG stays ahead. Mouchoir, Christophe Godor, and Chrisu fighting. I think something must have happened something must have happened somewhere, because Christophe Godor dropping now 6 seconds behind Mouchoir. I think actually that might be my timing screen having a glitch, but Daniel down the inside of Godor heading into turn number 1, and that is the move done for the Aston Martin. Daniel and Godor having penalties. Siki will be looking at that and looking at possible debut points, most likely debut points, as Max said, it is getting much more overcast over this Chinese Grand Prix circuit. Are we going to get a little bit of rain right at the end of this one? It's something that we're going to have to wait and see, but it would certainly spice things up. It would certainly hamper the preparations of the drivers, and it would certainly make everything just that little bit more unpredictable.
It certainly will, and that gap between the top 2 and Darks and Owls behind, Darks and Owls is finding about 4/10 a lap compared to the cars in front. Around this point last lap, it's about 2.6. It's now down to 2.4, but of course that was just gained a little bit into the top two's hands. So we're now 2.2, 2.1 it did flicker down to for a moment. So Darks and Owls is finding an abundance of time over these next few laps. So if he's able to keep this pace up, I think he might just be within DRS range come at lap 28. Might not be able to play a part on that final lap, but still a valiant effort indeed from the Haas man. Is anyone going to be able to make any moves further back? Mouchoir trying to defend here from Chris Yu to the inside. Will the Williams go into turn one? No, just not get close enough for an overtake. But Daniel and Christoph Godor once again into those first two corners. Going to go side by side. And Daniel able to get in front, but Godor going to try and hang this one around the outside, using as much throttle application as the car allows him to, as well as the car keeps stable. And there's a little bit of contact from David Ziski behind, who actually can capitalise on that little bump and run, but unfortunately not able to pull that move off. So the Alpine stays in 10th place for now and not looking for a move into turn 6 either. That gap between AMG and Darks now is 2.1 seconds now. Not as much time found from the Haas man. He's really extended that gap over Tim Bayer now though to 5.2 seconds with Giovanni Baruzza looking to capitalise and maybe getting into that top 4 and a crucial 12 points gained in his championship challenge. He's 56 points behind championship leader Ariane Sanger, but that will be a nice and healthy 14 points gained and bring it down to 42 points behind your championship leader. A nice old switcheroo attempt here from David Martinez on AMG, and wow, what a switchback that was into turn 14. AMG went hot on the brakes. Martinez knew that, and he got straight back by with that switcheroo. But now AMG might fight back into turn 1. Yes, he is. He's looking to the inside line. Martinez might try it again to just sneak his way to the inside line, but no. He is not able to do so, but all this squabbling is going to invite the Haas driver of Dark Signals to get closer and closer. That gap down to 1.6. He's just slowly nibbling away at that gap up in front. Will it be enough, though, come lap 28? And David Martinez, if he keeps on with this squabbling, he certainly will see the Haas driver loom large in those ring mirrors.
Yeah, 1.6 seconds now. It's coming down more and more. I think Darks and Owls is, as it gets a little bit more slippy maybe, as the overcast conditions come over this Shanghai International Circuit, I think Darks and Owls is more prepared for this sort of situation. And with 3 laps to go, we could be seeing him, as he's gained 2/10 in the last sector, could be seeing him come back into it, and could be seeing him right on the back of AMG and David Martinez. This would play a role in the decision for this race, not only because there would be another factor, another driver, but we could be seeing DRS disabled on that last lap of this Grand Prix, and what a turn up for the books that would be. We've spent all evening talking about how important it is to keep DRS for that final lap, and it could all come up pretty much pointless for that fight. David Martinez going very wide out of the final corner, looking to close in on AMG, but not making that move. Giovanni Baruzza, in the meantime, making his way past Tim Bayer, as those mediums just about quicker than the hards. But it's probably the crossover point between the two because of the wear on them. And Jack Maloney, he makes his way into the final points position ahead of Thomas Balser, who does have a penalty. So it was a move that wasn't really necessary. But as Max has just said, it is raining here in Shanghai. The first drops have been spotted, and this is a turn up for the books. The last couple of laps in this Chinese Grand Prix, and this could be a very, very tense one.
It certainly could, and if it rains hard enough and we have a little bit of a slick surface, that could cause pandemonium on that final lap of the Grand Prix. So lap 26 of 28, it is all going to kick off soon, you would think. 1.2 is that gap between Darts and Owls and David Martinez. Of course, AMG going into a complete unknown here when it comes to that grip levels, because he's the first driver around this circuit. Martinez and Darts and Owls can follow and just alternate their lines slightly if they see the V-carb slide. It is coming down quite heavily here in Shanghai, but on lap 26 of 28, it is all going to be coming down to who can keep their car on the road, who is good in these treacherous, changeable conditions. As AMG, with Martinez all over the back of him, will Darks and Owls be able to play a part? That is going to be the question as we start the penultimate lap now, and Martinez looking to get a move done into turn 1.
Yes, this will probably be the last time that we see DRS enabled in this race. Christoph Godel coming into the pits for those inters. It is time, and keep your eyes on those timing sheets to see how much quicker he is than Yanni Alexandrov ahead of him. But AMG just leading this race a bit more tentatively than he was before. It's squeaky bum time here in China, and AMG holding onto it. Duxonel's almost within that DRS range, that magical 1 second that will see him have an incredible fight back into the battle for the lead of this race. David Martinez 4/10 back from AMG, and it's just going to get ever closer. Duxonel's just trying to find any way in to that DRS. He's got just 2 more corners to go before that DRS detection point. Is he able to make it in before then? He's going to throw everything at getting into that range, but it's not going to be enough, or is it? Because he's going to be stronger through that corner, but it's not going to be enough. DRS is not going to be available for the Haas, I don't think. As he crossed the detection point, it was about 1.021 seconds behind, so that could have been the last opportunity for him to get that rear wing open. And now we head down for the penultimate time down the back straight. He doesn't have that DRS, and David Martinez is going to close in on AMG. So it's the top 2, and then Dogs and Owls waiting for a mistake from one of them. But now, just 2 more DRS zones to go. We've got a longer one down the back straight. We've got a shorter one here. And David Martinez closing in on AMG. Is he going to make this move here? Is he going to wait for that back straight? It looks as though he is going to wait. And Martinez is in prime position.
He certainly is, the Aston Martin driver who didn't finish a race in 2024, looking to start 2025 off with a bang and a race victory in his first race of the year. So, here comes the Aston Martin driver getting closer to the back of the V-Carb. Of course, both of these drivers not only looking for their first podiums, but their first race wins of the season. Dartson now is going to capitalise on any opportunity he's given, and he is now within DRS range, but surely it won't be enough at this stage. But AMG is trying to back the Aston Martin up into the clutches of the Haas driver behind, who is going to use everything down at this back straight. And there's a slide from David Martinez. It's going to be all about the run out of turn 12 and 13. Who can keep their nerve? Who can keep their car pointing in the straight line? It's a little few switches from AMG out of turn 13. A slide from Martinez as well as he's trying to put on the battery and the power. As we're heading down this back straight, the slipstream, the DRS, it's all in the hands of David Martinez, who now looks to the outside line. Can he pick his braking point? Yes, he can. AMG late to the brakes. He locks up nearly into the side of the Aston Martin, but David Martinez will come out on top of this squabble, head through the final corner, 1 corner to go. He had no race finishes last year. He starts 2025 off with a bang. David Martinez, new year, new driver, wins here in Shanghai. The Aston Martin man pulls off a superb performance in a treacherous mixed conditions Chinese Grand Prix to hold his nerve. He wins here in China, and AMG, with 2 attempts being that gap, oh, he will feel so heartbroken. It was a valiant effort from the V-Carb, but for David Martinez, he backs up that pole with a race victory, and the Aston Martin man can be happy with that one and starts his new year off the way he'll want it to continue.
Absolutely. His first finish in this Tier 5 Season 19 is a race victory. And so he will be ecstatic with that. Spare a thought, though, for Dux and Ace. He fought his way so hard back into this one, and he ended up in P3 with Martinez and AMG just holding on ahead of him, giving 1 more lap, and it could have been his race victory. But alas, it was not. You can see now how wet it really is out there. And it's certainly too wet for those slick tyres that they were on at the end of the race, especially the likes of Tim Bayer. 17 laps on those hards, in those conditions right at the end. That would have been difficult to hold on to, but that P4 is what he was fighting for at the end, and that P4 is what he ended up with. What a race for most of these drivers. Tim Bayer especially on that alternate strategy, making it work. 4th place, Darks and Ace fighting his way back into the DRS range there at the end. Tim Bayer actually picking up the game's driver of the day. Max, who was your driver of the day?
Oh, driver of the day. I'm going to have to give it to. I'm gonna have to give it to David Mart. No, actually, yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to David Martinez for that race victory. It's just a superb drive from him all round to come on top in that just treacherous conditions to keep his nerve, especially out of turn 13 when you're so close to someone within that DRS range to really just attack them into the final corner like that. Took a whole lot of bravery, and he still broke at the normal dry line as well. Honourable mention for driver of the day, though, in all of that, Tim Bayer, 15th to 4th, a whole 11 places gained with on that alternate strategy as well. So a big shout out to Tim as well. But your order for this Chinese Grand Prix is as follows. David Martinez converts pole into the race win with AMG. The top two in qualifying, finishing 1-2 in the race. Darksinase in third, Tim Bayer fourth, Barutza in fifth, Mouchoir in sixth, Chrisu in seventh, with David Zitsky in eighth, Daniel ninth, and Jack Maloney rounding out your top 10. Yanni Alexandrov in 11th, 12th was Thomas Baser. Christoph Godot was last of the finished runners in 13th. Then it was Jake DeWasser, Simon Voss, Paul Villegas, and Redmere, who were DNFs from that Grand Prix. But what a race that was, Cockcats. When we thought it couldn't get any more dramatic with Darks and Ace closing in on that top two, we had a little bit of rain involved as well. Overall, a brilliant race here in China.
It was a brilliant race. I mean, there was so many different storylines we could have followed. We could have followed the battle for the race lead. We could have followed the fight back up into the fight for the lead for Ducks and Owls. We could have followed the downfall of Yanni Alexandrov. There was so much going on up and down the grid. And in the end, it was David Martinez who came out on top. I'm going to see if we can get any of the drivers in to talk us through their races. I think Tim Bayer is a pretty good shout for driver of the day for me. And it was a good race for a lot of the drivers that they all, or most of them, have something to be proud about.
Yeah, they certainly do. I mean, a lot of drivers didn't pick up any penalties either, which, to be honest, with that final corner was quite a surprise because it can throw you offline quite a lot. But yeah, it was a very, very good race from everybody. And for those drivers who are reserves, like Martinez, like AMG, and I think Darts and now as well, it really does give them a really good opportunity in case any driver does drop out in the last 3 rounds, which is unlikely, but still a possibility. It does give them an opportunity to go, I can take that full-time spot. I've just shown what I'm capable of, and I can fight at the front of the field. But yeah, brilliant result from all those drivers. The reserves really coming out strong here in China, and they probably knew it was one of their best opportunities to show themselves because it's such a niche circuit and such a unique circuit that it's not featured on many calendars. And the fact that it suits a few driving styles on the grid, I reckon the likes of Martinez and AMG might have practiced on it a few hours more than the rest of the field to prove those performances.
Yeah, you got to prove yourself at some point though, and they've done a good job at demonstrating their abilities there with David Martinez. Just a great performance from him. You'd think that with that being his first finish, it's the first of many in this tier at least. As we head through the rest of the season, and we've got quite a few races in this season to go, which is great. It is great to see that we have a number of races to go because, well, we've got a lot of action to come after this one, which was one that was thrown in because this is where the console season started. This is where PC has picked up at. After that, it'll be to Canada next week, then Austria, and finally we'll be finishing the season off in Sao Paulo. So coming to the end of it, 3 short laps to go before the end of the season and the end of January. It seems like a very long time away, but it's closer than you think. It's going very quickly this season. It's very, very exciting, and Well, Canada next up. What's that going to throw up for us?
Oh, it's a completely different challenge to China, of course. A street circuit in Montreal, and that is going to be a complete different monster for these drivers to face. Penalties are certainly going to be on the cards. Expect those. And of course, the drivers could be pushing the limits against the walls. Expect a few front wing end plates at the very least to be flying off some of these cars. And again, DRS very powerful down the straight into the final chicane, and that will be a very, very big factor on that final lap once more as well. You get a double dosage down the final, down that back straight, and then into turn one as well. It's going to be a very chaotic Grand Prix, but a very interesting race as well. It's going to be all to play for in Montreal as we head over to the North Americas, which will then lead us into Austria, back over in Europe, and we'll end off the season at where F1 should always end off their seasons, at Sao Paulo in Brazil. And those last three races, surely all going to be action-packed and are all going to go all the way down to the wire and will bring a lot of chaos along with them.
Especially considering the fact that that was just... I mean, China's not always the most exciting track, but today it was. It ended up being probably the most exciting track that we've had in terms of just all the sheer amount of happenings. Bernie Ecclestone a couple of years ago wanted to bring sprinklers and things like that into F1. You don't need that. You just need WOR around China. But yeah, you're right about the Brazil one. It is the right way to finish off a season. I'm sure we'll be getting a season finale, Ariane Sanger versus somebody, and a couple of new faces have the opportunity to enter that fight, because remember, he's only on 93 points. He's not that far ahead of the rest of the field. He's about 50 points. That's about 2 race victories, and if he doesn't turn up or doesn't perform in the next couple of races, we could be seeing a number of those drivers shoot up into those positions. But yeah, it was a great one around China. It usually is a great one around any track in this WOR Season 19 calendar, and we're going to look to finish off the season with a bang. That is going to be the end, I believe, of the broadcast. Max, have you got anything else to add before we end off?
Just thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for the support. Me and Cockheads really appreciate it. And yeah, what a way to bring in the new year with a spectacular performance here in China. And looking for the rest of the season to come. The championship challengers surely will be back in action of Ironut, Arian Sanger and Dallin Mukhtir. I'll be looking to try and fight their way back to the top. And we'll see who will come out on top in Canada next week. The battle in Montreal. The Montreal Madness will begin next week. And we'll see if any of these reserve drivers that we've seen today can repeat that feat once more.
It will certainly be madness. I think that's a great word to describe it. And that is going to be where we end off. Make sure to subscribe, to like, and to join us next week as we head around Montreal. But until next time, it is goodbye.